Every life has a story, and every story is worth sharing. Your story, my story, and our story speak of victory and defeat, joy and sorrow, resilience and vulnerability. They are not just our story, they are Christ's story in us. They are Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
Every now and then you meet somebody that you really connect with very easily. Well, I've met Steve Scrimgeour a few years ago, but connected on a deeper level when he visited our church and presented compassion. And I sensed his heart for children who have no voices, who are not heard, who are in little villages, who knows somewhere in Indonesia, in the mountains, and yet he brings their love, he brings their needs to us, and we are able to somehow build a bridge and help those kids in an amazing way. That's why he has a heart. He has a heart of compassion, and that's why he works for compassion, because he can connect with people. That's why he connected with me. And that's why tonight we can hear his lovely story at Kingdom Stories from Down Under. Welcome, Steve.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's such an honour to be here with you.
You have a beautiful heart, you know.
Oh,
I didn't know why I liked you the first time I met you, but now I know. It's because you're soft in the heart.
Yeah.
You're very masculine with the beard, but in the heart you're very soft.
Yeah. My wife once said to me, Steve, when you're preaching, you're only allowed to cry once. You can't cry 3 times. Because when you're sharing your heart,
Yeah.
you just want to pour it out sometimes, but I have to contain it.
So do you only
Get the
cry?
feedback from my
Do you only
wife.
cry when it hurts, or do you cry also when you're joyful?
Oh, I am definitely cry when I'm joyful. Whenever I hear someone speak,
Yeah.
and God's speaking through them,
Mm-hmm.
I just start crying.
Mm.
If I hear God's voice in someone's voice,
Yep.
I hear His heart
Mm-hmm.
in them, I just start crying. So I might, I know times I'll cry for 5 minutes just hearing someone share their hearts.
Wow.
But it's when I hear His voice, that's when my heart just breaks.
And do you hear his voice often?
Yeah. Oh, for sure, all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, He's always speaking. He's not a silent God. And I don't just hear His voice in the Word.
Yeah.
I hear His voice through my family in Christ. And I look for it everywhere.
I think that's the key. The key is to look for it. Even, with visions, sometimes, we become very prophetic in our gifting, especially when we're out there in the ministry. Sometimes I think to myself, why am I not getting any visions in this season of life? And then it dawns on me, I'm not looking for them.
Mm.
They're there. It's just, it's like, duh. It's like, they're there. Just start looking again,
Yeah.
And it's the same, I think, here as well. If you're looking for the Father's heart, you will see it.
I think one of the biggest gaps people have in hearing God's voice is their faith. They don't believe they're heart to heart with Him every moment. They don't believe they're face to face with Him in every moment.
Yeah.
What Christ has done has brought us right into oneness with the Father.
Yeah.
Where Christ is with the Father is where we is. Christ has no problem hearing the Father's voice.
No.
So if I have the righteousness of Christ, I should be able to read the Word and hear the Father speaking to me. I should be able to listen to one of His children speaking and hear His voice.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm heart to heart with the Father because of what Christ has done.
Yeah.
So that's my perspective. I just rest boldly into what Christ has done and lean into His voice. Yeah.
Yeah. I spoke to a good friend of mine who's also a coach, both spiritual and emotional intelligence coach. And somebody asked him recently, he said, what's the most important aspect of ministry in the marketplace, ministry in church? What's the key to all of this, the kingdom ministry? And he said, well, I can define it in just one word. He said, intimacy. The key to everything is intimacy, intimacy with the Father. He said, if you get that right, you get everything right. Because that's where you get your identity, that's where you get your values, that's where everything ripples from there. And I think we fall short. You know why? I think we're satisfied with little. It's like I prepare for a sermon, for example, right? And I get the gold nut of it. And I say, okay, stop, God, this is enough for me, It's like, but I want to give you a lot more. And it's like, we are so happy with crumbs. And it's strange because then, we don't get the full benefit of everything.
I said to my manager once, I said, this is my goal for next year. And it was a big goal. It was audacious. She said, Steve, how are you going to do this? I said, I'm just going to walk with my father. I'm just going to go for a walk with my father. And I got that goal. But what did it come down to? It was just intimacy.
Yeah.
The father and his son just doing life together. So I totally agree with your coach, or the person who meant that. That's what it comes down to. That's the number one thing, is a walk with the Father.
Yeah.
Is unlimited.
Yeah.
And it's unstoppable.
That's right.
And it's uncontained.
Yeah.
So if you want to live an unlimited, unstoppable, uncontained life,
Yeah.
it's just a wonderful walk with your Father, because that's who He is.
That's
And
right.
He can be like that through us.
It's interesting. I interviewed Joylene not long ago. Joylene is an Aboriginal psychologist, and in her youthful years, she didn't walk with God. In fact, she had a lot of trauma. She was molested, and she suffered a lot in her teenage years as well. And I asked her, how did you keep yourself, how did you keep your sanity? And she said, I used to talk to God. And I said, look, throughout this, she said, yeah, I was taken to Sunday school when I was introduced to the Lord when I was small. I didn't have a relationship in a Christian sense with God. But she said, I used to talk to God all the time. I used to just tell Him. And it wasn't really faith in the way we would think, but it kept her going no matter what, because I think she developed that intimacy in an unreligious way. Non-dogmatic. She didn't know what exactly she was doing, but she knew the reality of the existence of God, and that she could go and talk to Him. And it's so simple.
I remember when I was a boy, I would just say to God all day long, I love you. I love you. I love you. And it became a pattern. It was like I'd meditate on it.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you. And I knew Him in that. And so that was just how I meditated.
Yeah.
And I did it in primary school. I did it in high school. I'd be riding my bike to school. Oh, I love you. And in some ways it was like a habit.
Yeah.
But what a great habit to have. If you're going to have something going through your mind,
Yeah.
just loving on Him. But what became like that thinking after that mindset, I think He just starts to grace you how to live that out.
Yeah.
How to live that life of intimacy. It becomes more than just you and Him in your mind. It starts to become how you live and how you love your family.
And that's where you can see it in other people. You have that awareness not only in you, but you actually see God in the other people, which is beautiful. So for you, this walk with the Lord started very early.
I was 3
Yeah.
in New Zealand.
Okay.
I knelt by my bed with my mum next to me.
She was a believer.
Yeah. Oh, my mum. She loves... You want to talk about intimacy? My mama. We make jokes that we've never seen her sin.
Yeah.
We're not sure if she's an angel or not.
Yeah.
But she can't be. She can't be an angel, for she had 6 children.
Yeah.
So she's an amazing mama.
Yeah.
Mum, love you, Mum. And I knelt with her in New Zealand by my bed.
Yeah.
And I asked Jesus into my heart. And I still remember that. It's one of my earliest memories.
Wow.
And that's how I live.
So you remember yourself at the age of 3.
Yeah, I remember that moment, sitting by my bed with my mum.
And wow, that's amazing. Because most people can't recall, that early childhood memories.
Because I came over from New Zealand when I was 5.
Yeah.
Every memory from New Zealand is kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 or 4. So I kind of have these memories from when I was young, because I know that was New Zealand. So anything from New Zealand I know was 3 or 4.
Okay.
So that makes me easy to remember, to have those memories.
How many kids in your family?
3 boys, 3 girls. My parents had.
6?
Yeah, 6 kids.
Wow,
We
that's...
loved it. Yeah.
And where are you?
I'm number 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so then you moved to Australia. Why did you move to Australia?
So we came over in 1987, and we moved over to Western Australia. My parents were ministers in New Zealand, and they just sensed this was where God was leading them.
Yeah.
So they came over here, and we became Australian citizens, and we love it. Now I'm an Aussie, got an Aussie wife, got Aussie kids. I still go for the All Blacks. Like, how can you let go of the All Blacks? I don't
know.
They're a great rugby team. I don't know if you know.
It's in your blood, eh?
It's in my blood. But other than that, I'm Aussie now. Once you've got an Aussie wife and Aussie kids, you've got to.
So what church? Were they Church of Christ or?
Over in New Zealand, they were New Life churches.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And they got a job here as pastors, as ministers?
So Mum and Dad came over, started a church over here.
They started a fresh church.
Yeah.
Which one?
Well, it's called Grace Church, Applecross.
Applecross.
It's
okay.
a wonderful church. It's
Still going.
Yeah, still going.
Oh.
It's a real like family church.
And your parents are still there?
Parents still there.
Oh, beautiful.
I was there until like 2 years ago.
Wow.
So I grew up in this small family church. My parents, the ministers. I love my dad. He's my hero. He's like discipled me all the way through.
Wow.
And then it was just the right season. We kind of sensed it was the right time for us to change churches. And we now go to Red Door Church.
Ready to take over the reins? It doesn't work like that?
I really love working across the church.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's a good place for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
Okay, so... who knows what will happen in the future?
Who knows?
Yeah, but that's great. So you moved to Australia, and then you had another brother and sister here, or it was done? New Zealand was.
We had
done?
a sister here. Anna was born in Australia, so she's our like one Aussie girl,
All
and
right.
she even looks more Aussie than the rest of us.
Of course she would.
I don't know how
the
she
sun,
did it.
The
The sun got her. Yeah, so she's Aussie. The rest of us are like just trying to be Aussies.
You can get both Kiwi and Australian passports if you want.
Yeah, that's right.
Not
But
that it
I've still
matters.
got this like little Kiwi accent
Where?
in some of my words. And I try and pronounce some words and they don't come out right. So people think I just can't speak right. But it's just because I've got a little bit of Kiwi accent. It's quite annoying when you're preaching.
No.
And there's certain subjects I can't hit. Like I can't talk about Jesus being the precious pearl because I don't know how to say the word pearl. It comes out. I can't say that word.
Sounds like
the
a
Kiwi
pill.
accent. That's right. What do you mean Jesus is a pill? I don't know. It's my Kiwi accent. I'm sorry. I just can't. Like, don't make me preach in that passage. There's other words too that I have to really explain the word because the Kiwi vowels are so different and I only slip it enough to make people think, can you not keep
So you never talk about fish?
Can't talk about fish and chips. No, can't talk
You can't
about
talk about number 6?
No, can't use that number. Never preach from any verse that has that number in it.
It's good that the holy number is 7, so at least you can say 7.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So school, primary school?
I went to Rostrata Primary School, drove past it today,
Where?
dropping my kids off. Rostrata Primary School,
Yeah.
dropped past it, said kids. That's where I went to school.
Yeah.
1,000 kids in that school.
Mm-hmm.
Went there, then I went to Willerton High School.
Yeah.
Good public high school, couple of
Yeah.
thousand students. Loved
Why
it
didn't
there.
you go to Rosemoyne, or it wasn't that popular back then?
Rossmoyne and Willerton are quite competitive.
I know they are.
So they're like 1 and 2 public schools.
Yeah.
Willerton right now is above
Churchlands.
Rossmoyne. Churchlands. Yeah, well, maybe.
Them
Really getting up there, are
and
they?
Shenton College, I think.
Okay,
These
okay.
4 are.
Yeah, right up there.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to know why Willerton is right up there, number 1.
Yes.
People always say it's the principal. We had a great prayer meeting going. Year 11, year 12.
You
We
were
used
praying?
to pray it up.
Oh.
Every recess, we get together, 4 or 5 of us from different churches,
Yeah.
and just pray. I think that's why we're getting the good results.
Absolutely.
I don't know, maybe
Sometimes you even study.
we may have studied the word.
Yeah.
But we were more praying for revival back then. That was the 90s, you know, like that was the word. We were praying for revival in our schools.
So you never had a rebellious period or a...
Year 9, I thought I was a rapper.
Okay.
So like, I had the baggy pants.
Okay.
I had the hat.
The Stussy gear?
The Stussy gear. Yeah, that's right. So I tried that in year 9 and I tried in year 10, but I was not cool enough
No, you
to be a
couldn't make
rapper.
it.
I wasn't bad enough either.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was having that phase. So it was like year 9, year 10 kind of lasted. Year 11, I was like at the prayer meeting every day. But year 9, year 10, I would still, before I left school, I'd be like, Mum, can you pray for me before I go? And I'd like get Mum and Dad to pray for me every day before I go to school. Because I was new when
Oh.
they prayed for me, something happened. And then I'd be like riding my bike to school. And then I get to school and put my hat up really high like a rapper, put my baggy clothes on, try and drop some
No
rapping
uniforms
names.
at Willerton?
Now we had uniforms, but I just wear the baggiest
Yeah.
pants that I could find.
Yeah.
And put my hat up. But I was not legit. Yeah. There was not a good season for me trying to be a rapper because I just couldn't do it. Yeah, that's probably why I
Must have
started
been
the
the Kiwi
Premier.
accent.
Yes.
Are there rappers in New Zealand?
Yeah, great rappers. I actually am a rapper now. Just
Oh, you
want to
are?
let you know. So
Okay.
to my kids, I go by the name Kangaroo Rapper.
Okay.
I don't do hip hop.
Yeah.
I do hop hop.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, it's really average rapping. But when you've got a 3-year-old daughter,
Everything's perfect.
everything's perfect.
Even if it doesn't rhyme.
It doesn't rhyme. Sometimes, like, you know how rappers do off beats?
Yeah.
I do off rhymes.
Oh,
Like,
off rhymes.
Yeah, just miss the whole rhyme.
Yeah.
But I don't think my kids realize you're supposed to rhyme when you rap, so I just drop it.
Grammar doesn't matter, English doesn't matter, nothing matters.
Everything I thought I was going to be in year 9, year 10, I'm now having it, with kids. Like, I'm having that phase now.
Can you rap for us?
Right now? No way. If you were 3, I'd rap for you.
I am 3.
No, thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. And what did you do when you finished school?
So, year 11, year 12, I was praying. I sensed that God had Bible college for me. But I also felt like he wanted me to go to uni. So, just listening in and got advice from my dad. Dad said, go to the Baptist Theological College. It would be a good degree for you to have. And it was through Murdoch Uni. So I went through Murdoch. I did a business degree. Yeah, so I did a bachelor in theology at Baptist Theological College, which is now VOS.
Yeah.
And I also did a business systems degree through Murdoch Uni at the same time. So I was just able to do the 2 degree. Yeah. So it was good. So when I finished my studies, I was able to go and work in business.
That would have been challenging. It was full on, wasn't it? It was 3-4 years.
The business systems degree wasn't hard because it was made for people coming out of high school.
Yeah.
When I went to Baptist Theo, the youngest students were 27, 28. Yeah, well, most were 50. The young students were 25, were like 27, 28. But then there was this 18-year-old.
Oh.
And so I'd be in class and everyone had this great understanding. All the young people were going to like Harvest Bible College or this Bible College. But Dad was like, Steve, if you go to Baptist Theo, it'll set you up for life. Like you
get foundations right.
You'll get your foundations right. But I remember I'd be in class and I'd be like, and I'd like fall asleep to wake up. Because I was just, they were just talking above me.
Yeah.
So often the conversation was over my head.
Yeah.
But I learned so much because you do 4 years from that.
Oh.
You get to know. And there were so many wonderful pastors there who would just spend time with me at lunchtime and just talk with me about what was happening in class and just journeying with me. I just felt loved. And it was so good to get to know so many of these wonderful people from different traditions.
Yeah.
So I'd be with this Baptist pastor, so lovely. Then I'd be with a Church of Christ pastor. I'd be like, this guy is the best. So I was getting this understanding of how beautiful the body of Christ was by spending time with these different ministers.
Very interesting. Did it mess you up?
It was so good for me.
Okay.
It was so good. There was definitely some my dad has a really good grip on the Bible. So I would go back and
ask questions.
Just go, Dad, what about this? What about this? What about this? And he would just help me through it. Yeah. You need that.
Or mess you up a bit more.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe I needed a bit of both. Like there's a bit of balancing in the middle.
And then, career-wise, what was your first job?
First job, I worked at ITC, laptop, sales, business development role, enjoyed it.
Okay, so that was more like IT business kind of work?
That's right.
Okay.
I was always doing ministry on the side, so I was running a youth group at that time.
At your church?
At my church, I was doing, I used to go down the southwest of Perth, like in the country areas, get all the little youth groups together and do a camp. And get this youth group of 3, get the youth group of 5. This guys haven't got a youth group, but ring at the pastor, bring him along. And then there's all these kids who had just these small youth groups and thought they were the only ones in their town. Yeah. Now there's like 80 of them in a room and we're just worshiping God with all our hearts.
Beautiful.
That was just such a wonderful season. So I was doing that. And but I was working in the business side, really enjoying it. Worked at One Still and worked my way up to being like a branch manager and having staff and being entrepreneurial in that space. I really enjoyed that.
In the marketplace? Yeah,
in the marketplace. Loved it.
When did you meet Rosalind?
Oh, Rosalind. So, there was this conference called Planet Shakers.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, Planet Shakers. It was in Adelaide.
Okay.
So, I had lots of friends around the city, a bit of an extrovert.
Yeah.
But there was this one church out in Armidale. I didn't really know anyone there. And I was talking to the people who had organised the buses, like, there's this bus going from there. I was like, I'll go with them. I don't know anyone from there. It'll be great. So I got on this bus, and there's no one I know. Yeah. And I took some like Pez, which is like this lolly with a Pez dispenser.
Okay. And
I was just like offering the Pez to everyone on the bus, just making friends.
Yeah.
And there was this beautiful girl on the bus called Rosalind, and she was just so lovely. And we were only friends then, but we stayed acquaintances. And then a few years later, I went to this Youth Alive event, and she put it on because she worked for Youth Alive. There's like a couple of thousand people in the room.
Wow.
And I'd taken my youth group, and this boy says to me in my youth group, he goes, I need to go to the toilet. So I'm like, okay, I'll take you out. Once the altar call finishes, I take him out, and as I'm walking out, I see Rosalind. I haven't seen her for like a couple of years, so I don't see her every now and again.
Yeah.
And she gives me a hug, and finish the hug, and I walk out and take this boy to the toilet. And I'm taking him to the toilet, and I'm thinking, whoa, that hug was amazing. I'm feeling electricity through me. Like, I was just like, wow, what a hug. That girl's beautiful. And I hadn't really thought of her like that. But it's amazing what a good hug can do from a beautiful girl. Whereas she was thinking this, why is Steve leaving during the altar call? Who is this guy? Where I'm thinking, what a girl, what a hug. I'm going to have to connect in with her. So after that, I just started chasing her.
Yes.
Like, I visited her church, got to know her, said, hey, let's all go out for dinner afterwards. Then I said to her this, we went out for dinner. I got
she accepted.
Well, I invited like everyone in the church out for dinner.
Okay.
And then, so we're all going out. And I didn't really get to talk to her. I saw the youth pastors catching up with them. And then afterwards, I'm like with her, and I'm like, hey, Roz, Australian Idol's on. Want to come back to my house with my friend who goes to your Bible college and come and watch Australian Idol? So we went back and watched Australian Idol together, and I was just cracking jokes. Then I realised I was really attracted to this girl. So I just started chasing her, and...
Did she know at that time or not?
She didn't know. I wrote her a letter. I said, here's 10 reasons why you should let me take you out for dinner, and here's 5 reasons why you shouldn't. I want to give her both sides of the argument. Yeah. Then I had a conclusion. Therefore, you can see there's more reasons to let me take you out for dinner.
Wow.
So I sent her that. Went over. She said,
via snail mail?
It was. I can't remember what it was, but it was back then. It was before Facebook and Messenger.
Yeah.
It was one of those old kind of...
So did you post it or you dropped it?
Nah, it was...
You gave it to her?
It was one of those old platforms for social groups. I can't remember.
Oh, High Five.
Something on the internet, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
And then Facts. But her sister's telling us, Roz, you can't hang out with this guy one-on-one. You know that girl. She was known as the ice queen at a church. Oh. So these guys would chase her and she'd just ice them. Ice queen, no, I will not go out with you. So she was getting ready to ice me. So she's like, come over to my house. So I go over to the house and she's just ready to ice me. And I'm ready to tell her how beautiful she is. Because I'm just like, I'd become besotted.
Yes.
Here's why. She lived in Baldivis.
Yes.
She'd drive all the way to Armidale. It's like area where there's a lot of poverty.
Yeah.
She'd drive like half an hour there.
Yeah.
She was a youth pastor. She ran the discipleship course. She just loved the kids. This was my dream girl, like...
She was better than you.
Talking about punching above your weight. If you want to get besotted, punch above your weight, but you might get iced. She tried to ice me, so that day I went over to the house and she just totally iced me.
Just didn't work.
Nah, she was like, nah, all these no's. And I was like so ready to tell her how beautiful she was. So I get home and I send her a message. On back in the days we had those really average phones.
SMS.
What's my chance? 1 in 1,000 or 1 in a million. If she says 1 in a million, I'm going to back off. I'm not that guy. She says 1 in 1,000, I'm chasing her down.
Yeah.
She replies, 1 in 100. Oh. So I rang her up. I'm like, 1 in 100. I like those odds. And I started telling like 5 different things in my life where the odds were 1 in 100, and I made it happen.
Yeah.
And I just told her how beautiful she was. And yeah, that's
you won.
She realized. Yeah,
melted the ice.
She went over on a missions trip overseas, and she was gone for 2 weeks, and I missed her like crazy. But while she was over there, God did all these great works. They went to an unreached people group. The Spirit of God moved. All these people coming to Jesus, and she's on the bus, and she looks out the window, and she's like, "Normally this is enough, like what I've just seen," and she just felt God's peace. Yeah. You can date Steve. And she came back that day. I picked her up from the airport. I took her to a bull. Now, bull, I don't know if I'm saying that right word. Is that the Kiwi accent? Like a dancing bull? See, I don't even know how to say it.
I thought it was a bull. But
yeah, that's right. I don't even know how to say it.
Okay, now I hear you.
I take her to the bull. And on the way, she's so beautiful. I had to pull off the freeway.
Just to look at her in the eyes.
And I pulled her off the freeway. I said, this is dangerous. You're so beautiful. Here you are all dressed up. Let me just enjoy you for a little bit before we jump back in the car. We're not dating. Like, we're not official yet. But she knows I'm chasing her. Jump back in the car. We get to the bull. And I'm so excited. I didn't walk in there like I was with me and Natanael. Walk in. Hey, he's my bro. Coming in here to have some fun. Meet some people. I came in like a king who had slain a dragon. See this beautiful girl? She's beautiful. She's amazing. She's been overseas loving the kids. And she's with me. That night, I took her on the dance floor. My moves were crazy. She walked off embarrassed. She came back on the dance floor. My moves were crazy. She walked off embarrassed. 3 times she came to the dance floor. 3 times she walked off embarrassed by my moves. Don't think like I was doing good moves. Think like the Wiggles. Think the kangaroo rapper, like trying to dance. He can't dance. No. He's the kangaroo rapper. He dances like a 3-year-old.
But you were in 7th heaven.
I was in 7th heaven.
And she was grounded.
The next night, we were together. It worked.
Yeah.
And then a year later, we were married.
Because you were yourself, and she saw that this guy's real.
Yeah. Oh, we were meant for each other. We were meant for each other.
Yeah.
I feel like when God made me, he made her face.
Yeah.
She's just perfect for me. She's exactly what beautiful is for me. Yeah, I love her.
Yeah. How did you propose?
So I got the F team. The F team is the fiancé team. I had them come in my house in the morning.
Yeah.
There was like about 15 of them.
Yes.
And I said, guys, here's your schedule.
Yeah.
So we went to the first event. So I took her out. She came over. The F team had already gone out.
Yeah.
And we're walking across Mount Henry Bridge, this beautiful big bridge, where we like had a special moment when I was chasing her. And we're walking across, and she looks at me, and she can tell I'm excited. I'm so excited. Every 10 steps, I'm doing a little bounce because I'm so full of energy. Like, I just couldn't hold it in. I didn't know what to do with all this energy. It's like when I was on the dance floor that first night when she came back from the missions trip. And so we're there, and she was like, in her head, 80% this guy's going to propose. Anyway, we come around the corner, and I...
So you did the loop?
We went one way, came down on the sand side, on the other side, and we came around the corner, and the fiancé team, the F team, had set up this big, beautiful, picnic. Like roses, picnic, Nando's. Get on one knee, spin her around, and then she can see all the gear, and I'm on one knee, playing the question. She's like, yes. We had 3 more locations, came back to her house at night. All the families are there, toasts. Lovely. Yeah. So, yeah, then we got married. And
that's
wonderful.
Very romantic.
Yeah.
Should probably remember it.
I hope so.
That's great. Do you ever talk about it?
Yeah, like, I love telling the story of falling in love.
Do you tell your kids about it?
Oh, yeah.
They know it?
My kids have this thing at dinner time where they go, tell us a story when you're a little boy. Tell us a story when you're a little girl, mum. And we just tell them stories when we're kids. They love it. So they love hearing our stories.
Nice. I got to adopt that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, do it. I love it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the best.
That's good. And then the kids came along?
Kids came along. It's a struggle. It was a struggle for us to have children.
Okay.
We need some miracles. But we were married for 4 years and we had Peter.
Mm-hmm.
He's 8.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful boy. I remember God spoke to me clearly. He said, call him Peter. Mm-hmm. 3 times he told me call him Peter. And Rosie and I discussed all these different names. And I said, Rosie, have you got a name? And Peter was on the list. And she goes, I just got the name Peter when I was praying. I'm like, yeah, I got that name too. So he's the only kid in the school called Peter. Yeah. But he is a Peter. Like, he's got that boldness.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, there's a strength to this boy. He's a great kid. He's 9. He's read the whole Bible. He's a reader.
Wow.
He loves the word. God's hands on his life. We've got Charlotte. She's 3 and she's a worshipper. She just spins and worship. We love to have family prayer times. We put the YouTube channel on, put the worship on, and we just worship as a family. We dance as a family, enjoy God as a family, and she just worships and spins and loves it. If we don't worship, she tells us off. If we're not having a family prayer time, she lets us know all about it. And then Lily is 4 months old.
Yeah.
I love being a dad.
4 months. That's beautiful. Wow. And what else did you guys do? I mean, you carried on in the marketplace, or you came more into the church?
So I was really enjoying the marketplace.
Yeah. And
this was my heart. I want to have a creative culture in my workplace. Yeah. And I want, none of my staff are Christians, but I want to have that. Sure. To me, that's what heaven on earth looks like. It looks like creativity. So we were entrepreneurial. We were always doing fresh things. And I just felt the grace had left us. And I remember talking to God, and God said to me, I've got your next role sorted. And 2 weeks later, Roz goes, hey, Steve, have a look at this job I found on the internet. It came up on our Facebook page. It's for compassion. And I read it. I was like, everything. I would love to do that. And so I just felt like God had prepared me for this season. So I came into the role. I remember my interview, I was so confident and excited just to be interviewed and talk about it. I'd never gone for a job outside of my own organisation. I was just always going for promotions. And I loved it. This is what happened. When I started going for the role, I'd watch these compassion videos. And the Holy Spirit would just baptize me in the Father's grief for these children.
Yeah.
But He would also baptize me in the Father's joy.
Yeah.
And I remember that interview process that went for a couple of months. I would just cry every day. Father was just sharing His heart with me for children in poverty. And His heart for children in poverty isn't just the grief, it's the joy of them being free.
Yeah.
So then to come and work for Compassion, I've worked for Compassion for 4.5 years, and I can tell you this, I've loved every second of working for this organisation. Why? Because we connect the church in Australia with the church overseas.
Yeah.
So as one family, we can go to a child in extreme poverty where darkness is surrounding them and go, this is the might of the body of Christ together for you, one beautiful child, to be completely released from poverty and come into everything God has for your life. And to me, to be able to be so connected to the Father's heart in my full-time role, it's just wonderful.
Yeah. And to be a voice for these people who have no voice. I think it's beautiful. Compassion does an amazing job. And as you know, because you came here, we sponsored 3 children, and our kids have somebody that they connected with. And I think I just mentioned to you before we started this interview, even the other day they were writing letters and drawing pictures to them, which is beautiful because the children can correspond.
I love this so much.
Yeah.
A part of the discipleship for my own children
Yeah.
is to get them to write letters to the children, and the children we're sponsoring, they're discipling my children, and my children are discipling them. I remember one night, Pete was crying. I could hear him, and I came down to his bedroom, and he was crying so much. I said, Pete, what's wrong? Did you have a bad dream? He said, yeah, Dad, I had a really bad dream. I said, remember the verse that Alex gave you to memorize. Fear not, for God is with you.
Yeah.
And I have been to where Alex lives. He lives in a slum.
Yeah.
He lives in a home that is made of bamboo.
Yeah.
The rain comes in, you can see right in. It is unsafe. So for him to tell us to memorize this verse, fear not, for God is with you, that he can walk around that place and go, God is with you.
Yeah.
Like, that's conviction for him. He's giving us a verse that means so much for him. So I was like, Pete, and we just went over this verse, and it was so good for Pete, just in that moment, to be able to connect with what Alex John had sown into my son's life. And so we do the same thing. We give these kids verses to memorize. They give us verses. And I really believe everything God's put into our family, we release into these children. We serve them.
Yeah.
And that's part of the legacy God has for our family, is these children's lives.
Beautiful.
But I love seeing the church
Yeah.
in Australia come together with a church overseas for one child.
Yeah.
Together, the church is unstoppable.
Sure.
What Christ has done on the cross to bring the church together, there is so much acceleration in the kingdom of God when the church unites and starts moving together.
It's agreement. God works in agreement. So, I mean, it even says if 2 agree on earth, it will be done. Just imagine when churches agree. And when we come in agreement, you know, it's so powerful. And I pray that people just get they get this simple aspect of the kingdom of God, which is beautiful. So, what's your wife doing, Rosalind?
So Rosie, she is, because we've got the newborn, she's looking after the baby and the kids.
So what was she doing? She was a pastor when you met her?
When I met her, she was a pastor, and a travel agent as well.
Okay.
These days, she works for her dad's business. Okay. She's on the intercession team at our church, and she's in the Deborahs, which is like a group led by Wendy Yap in the city. That's
beautiful.
And she's writing mentoring. She's writing a book about our journey for children.
Okay.
But most of all, she's just an amazing wife. Like, she cooks a good meal, eh?
Yeah.
It's so good to marry a girl who loves to cook. Yes, I have to watch MasterChef. I don't like MasterChef. Don't make me watch that show. But if it means I get amazing food and she loves to cook, I'm not a good cook. No. You got to have the self-awareness about where you're weak and where you're strong. I'm not stronger than
you eat well, don't you?
I eat like a king.
Yeah, so that's all right. You do your part.
I love it, yeah.
Well, I mean, you imagine if you didn't eat well or you didn't enjoy your wife's cooking, how would she feel?
Oh, mate, that's right.
So, you play a role.
It goes both ways.
No, that's wonderful. Yeah. That's wonderful. And you've developed wonderful friendships as well with the movement ministry, Movement Day, and all the movement across Australia. Tell me a little bit about that.
Since I was young, like I shared when I was in high school, I was leading a prayer meeting with people from different churches, and we would pray.
Yeah.
And we were one family praying for our school.
Yeah.
When you have that goal of transforming your school, you need the Baptist, you need the Pentecostal, you need each other.
Yeah.
And when we did the camp, I remember those camps down south, we had invited every youth group to come along. There was so much power when we came together.
Yeah.
And I used to run these burn services, we'd bring different youth groups together in our city. And then this thing, United Prayer, started.
Yes.
And I was involved in that starting, and that was, we would just get youth from across the different youth groups, more young adults across our city. And we would just do a different church every 3 months, and we'd just pray. We'd pray for our city. And there was so much grace on this. And friendships were born out of this United Prayer, and a heart for our city was born, and this unity was like contagious in our city. And then from that, I was just growing this desire for the church to collaborate. When I joined Compassion, when I was now in an organization which was one of the greatest collaborators in the kingdom, like globally, bringing the church together. We work with 8,000 churches on the field just to disciple children, but it connected to thousands of churches in the developed world. I just loved it. So I was always in that space. And so I was connecting with a lot of the people who were in that unity and collaboration space in our city. And they were becoming my spiritual fathers, my spiritual mothers, my brothers and sisters. And we would ring up and have conversations. And that's when I started to get to know these people. But then we were like doing things together and ministering together and putting events on. That's when I came into contact with a lot of the movement group. And so there's like a movement .org, like a kind of Australian team.
So I know the Sheltons. I've worked with them in ACAL and in other circles. So
so this group, they wanted some younger people on, so Ahmed and I have kind of joined in, and we're just like learning from them. We connect every couple of weeks, and Zoom, we're having 3 days together. But these are some of the most beautiful, humble, kingdom-hearted people in our nation. And so just to be able to come under them and be mentored and loved by them and discipled by them, it's just growing my thinking, my understanding, but it's growing my humility. I think the biggest thing I've got from hanging out with the movement group is you guys are doing so much, but you're so humble. Like, it's so attractive. My dad is the most humble man I've ever met. And he is my hero. And I love that man. His humility is so attractive. And so when I see pastors who are humble like my dad, I'm like, that's what I want to be as I grow up. Like, that's where I'm going. Father, take me there. So to be around people when that's where they've gone, like I love being around the movement group. There's this humility in WA amongst the movement group. There's this humility nationally. And I think if you want to bring leaders together from different denominations, from business, from church, you've got to come with vision and boldness, but you better come with humility, because they're going to see right through you. Humility is attractive. We may follow boldness, but we ain't going to follow with that humility. So for me, it's just been so good to come into that place of learning that. And God's just
because you're building relationships with them, and then you see it. See, humility needs to be seen. You can't say I'm humble, because then you're not. But it's only when you journey with people you really honor them and you see who they are and what they do, which is beautiful.
I love that word honor you said. That's so key in this season right now. It's naturally the generations are coming further apart. And even the church can divide. We need to honor each other.
Honor is not something that you receive. Honor is something that you give. It's
beautiful.
You can't say I received a lot of honor. It's like it was honorable maybe, but most of the thing is you honor people, I honor people. That's the key. The key is in giving honor, not in receiving honor.
I remember I was driving down Tonkin Highway and I said to God, you're giving me so much favor in this city. So much favor. I said, why? And as soon as I said, I felt this deep in my heart. Because of your dad's faithfulness. And as I've come into my dad, he knows my whole heart. He knows every sin I've ever done. He's journeyed with me through being a teenager and being a young adult and being married. But I've honored him and I love him, and it's almost like as you honor them,
Yeah.
you also come into the blessing on their life.
Absolutely.
There's so much for the church. And if the church starts honoring each other, we come into each other's blessing.
Yeah.
Our blind spots are removed when we come into a relationship with each other. We can learn so much.
Yeah.
We can collaborate. I really believe when the church comes together, we are unstoppable. We are unstoppable. We can disciple nations.
Absolutely.
I think separated, we can't.
That's right.
I think we struggle. We're going to struggle to disciple Australia.
Yeah.
Separated. But together in Christ. And Christ has done this on the cross. He has brought us as one as the Father and the Son are one.
Yeah.
He's made us beloved family like the Father and Son of family. When we come into that place and there is honor there, the younger honoring the older serving the younger.
Yeah.
The different denominations learning from each other.
Yeah.
The pastors serving the business leaders and those who are in government all coming as one family. I tell you what, Australia's too easy.
Yeah.
Australia's too easy for that church.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go into Indo and Malaysia. We're going to have to just disciple the nations.
They'll have to open the borders.
Have to open the borders because we'll be uncontained. Like, how can you contain that kind of power?
It's beautiful.
But it's so connected to humility.
Yeah.
Like, who will inherit the earth? It's that meek. It's the meek.
Yeah, the ones who serve. It's interesting. The other night, somebody said, John Smith actually. He said, God didn't call us to fix people. He called us to serve people. Because all the time, like we've got, I can help you. I can fix you. It's like God doesn't want you to fix the people. Fix yourself if you can, but serve the people and love them.
I really believe it starts with prayer.
Yeah.
But after prayer, if you want to disciple a city, you want to disciple a community, you want to disciple a family, you pray for that family, but then you serve that family. Prayer will lead to serving. Being with the Father's heart, being with Him, He's so serving.
Yeah.
He's so loving. He's so humble.
Yeah.
Yet He's glorious and He's holy.
Yeah.
When you be with Him and you're praying for someone, you want to serve them.
That's right.
But when you serve someone, it will open up their heart for you to disciple them.
Sure.
You pray, you serve, and then you disciple.
Yeah.
To me, that's how you...
And you do it in service to God. You don't care whether they assimilate it or not, whether they appreciate it or not, whether they see it or not. You just simply do it because you honor God. Your service is unto God, which is beautiful. So what's the legacy you'd like to pass on to your children and your children's children and your children's children's children?
I remember once I was playing basketball with my son, Pete, out the front yard, and I could tell he just wanted to beat me.
Of course.
Yeah. But I wanted to teach him the ways. It's like, I want to teach him how to play basketball, get better. I was like, Pete, sit down, my boy. I said, Pete, I'm trying to teach you, and you just want to beat me. You got to learn from me as well. I'm your daddy. I said, Pete, your great-great-granddad, his name was Peter as well. And he was a salvo in New Zealand. He would walk the streets.
Yeah.
He would as a prayer. He'd be on his knees praying. He had a son, and his name was Norman. And Norman went off the shoulders of Peter. And Norman used to play the organ at the Methodist church.
Yeah.
And Norman had a son, and his name was Graham, and that's my dad. And Graham went off Norman's shoulders. He's a great man of faith, and that's my dad. Just faithful man. What a great word to describe someone.
Yeah.
And I said, Pete, I go off Graham's shoulders, and I stand 3 men high off their shoulders. I said, I honor my father. I love my father. He knows my whole life. He knows me. I said, Pete, if you will honor me, if you will love me, if you will listen to me, you will stand on my shoulders 5 men high off this legacy. Yeah. And your children can stand on your shoulders. And I was in the front yard, and I said to Pete, do you want to get on my shoulders? Because he's like, yeah, Dad, I want it. So I pulled him up on my shoulders, and I'm holding him up like this, and I'm standing up in the front yard, and he's on my shoulders, standing to him like, Pete, this is where you belong, my boy. And he's like, and he looked down, he's like, Daddy, this is where I belong.
Hallelujah.
And so for me, legacy is that I want to honor those before me.
Yes.
And for some people, it's not about your own parents, but it's maybe a pastor or a mentor who you need to honor.
Yeah.
Because when you honor them, like we said, you come into their blessing, you come into their favor, you come into what they deserve, what they've been sowing into. And I've come into my dad's favor and the legacy. And I'm like, Pete, I want you to come into that. So the language I use for my son and my daughter a lot is this. Probably a couple of times a day, I would say this, Pete, I want you to be a great boy of love. I want you to be a great man of love. I want my children's goal in life to be a great woman of love or a great man of love. To me, that's what fulfillment is. If I can be a great man of love
people,
before
yeah.
my Father,
Yeah.
the people I respect in life
Yeah.
are not just the great people of faith.
Yeah.
It's when you get to know them
Yeah.
that they love you.
Yeah.
That is so attractive, and that's the children I want to raise up. And not just my own children.
Yeah.
I want the legacy of the church that I'm serving. That we would be a church, that we would be a great church of love in our city, that we would love our city,
Yeah.
that we would raise up young people who love our city, who love our schools,
Yeah.
who love their parents, who love their children. So for me, my legacy is let's raise up great lovers of God, great lovers of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's do it together. Like
Yeah.
let's. For me, my legacy is let's bring the church together and let's just go love, and let's just
Love
see
it.
what God does.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. Well, I think you're doing it, and I think you're influencing a lot of people, inspiring others to do the same. Thanks for coming to the show, mate. It's wonderful to hear your passion and your love for people. Well, friends, what an amazing testimony. Great men and women of love. You also fit in that category. So I want you to take on this inspiration that you've heard tonight and build a lot of love in your heart, and pass it on to your children and to your children's children and to the generations that come after them, to become great people of love. Mate, if you love and I love and we love, this world will become more loving, and we can share the love of Christ to the world. This world needs more love, so let's just apply it. If you love this content, you know what to do. Do subscribe, do share it, do give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and other channels where you watch this or you listen to this content, and come back again. And if these stories inspire you, we'd love to get some feedback, and we'd love to hear your story and how this is influencing you and is building you up. I'm Natanael Costea at Kingdom Stories from Down Under.
Thank you for joining us on Kingdom Stories from Down Under. We'd love it if you would subscribe, rate, and share these stories with your wider community. And remember, every story is worth sharing, including yours.